Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting under the hood of the EV revolution, but maybe not in the way you'd expect, not the cars, not the usual big automakers.
Nope, we're looking at the power source,
Hmm.
the batteries,
Mm-hmm.
and specifically this one Chinese giant, CATL, that's, well, making itself absolutely crucial to Europe's whole industrial future.
Yeah, indispensable is maybe the word. So for you listening, our mission today is pretty clear.
Right. We need to figure out how exactly contemporary Amperex technology CATL is doing this. How are they taking their tech advantage and, frankly, huge amounts of cash for local investment?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking billions.
Billions of euros, yeah.
And turning that into market share that honestly dwarfs most European players combined.
The numbers are just kind of staggering when you look at them. Our sources show CATL's European market share hasn't just crept up, it's exploded.
It really has.
From about 17% back in 2021 to what's projected to be 38% by 2025. Almost 4 out of every 10 EV batteries in Europe from one company.
And this isn't, a temporary surge. The scale of the money involved tells you that. They've earmarked, what, 11 billion just for Europe?
11 billion euros. That signals a really deep long-term play.
Exactly. So the big question we need to explore, the real tension here is, as CATL digs itself this deep into Europe's industrial core, does Europe even control its own energy transition anymore?
Okay, let's follow the money first and the actual factories.
Mhm.
When CATL had that big $5.2 billion IPO in Hong Kong,
I remember that.
they didn't just spread it around globally, they funneled 90% straight into their European expansion.
That's a huge signal. It's a massive financial bet on Europe. And strategically, it's smart. It kind of sidesteps potential future trade issues, which, let's face it, are a real risk we'll probably get into later.
Definitely. And they're not just planning, they're already here. Operational in Germany, right?
Yeah.
The Ringier. Since 2023.
Fully operational.
Yeah.
And that plan has serious output.
Let's put that output into context. We hear GWH thrown around a lot. This German plant, 24 GWH capacity. And for you listening, what does that mean? 24 gigawatt hours. That's enough battery power for well over 350,000 electric cars every single year from one factory.
That's a massive footprint. And they're running it incredibly efficiently, too, using what they call extreme manufacturing techniques, and it's designed as a zero-carbon blueprint.
Zero carbon. Wow.
And get this, the sources say they're aiming for break-even by the end of this year, 2024. For a brand new factory of that scale, that is, well, it's incredibly ambitious financially.
So Germany's the impressive start, but Hungary, Debrecen, that looks like the real commitment to future dominance.
Oh, absolutely. Debrecen is the next level up. It's this huge mega factory, planned to start production late 2025.
And the capacity there.
Planned capacity is 100 GWH.
Wow, okay.
When that comes online, it's going to completely reshape the battery supply chain in that whole region.
But, okay, you can build giant factories, but you need buyers lined up, right?
Right.
How are they locking in the actual car companies?
That's the other key piece. They're weaving themselves into the fabric of Europe's auto industry through partnerships. The big one recently is that 50-50 joint venture with Stellantis.
Right, Stellantis, that's Peugeot, Fiat, Chrysler, Jeep. A huge group.
Exactly. And this isn't just, hey, sell us some batteries. It's shared risk, shared investment, shared infrastructure.
And that JV is big money, too, up to $4.1 billion for an LFP battery plant. Where's that one?
Zaragoza, Spain. They're aiming to start production by the end of 2026, and it could scale up to 50 kilojoules itself.
So half the size of the Hungary plant, but still massive.
And that partnership does a few things at once. It guarantees CATL meets all the EU rules about local content and sustainability. It locks in Stellantis as a massive customer for years.
Smart.
And it's not just Stellantis. They've already got deals to supply VW, BMW, Audi, even for really high-profile new EVs like the electric Porsche Macan and the Audi Q6 e-tron.
So they're hitting every part of the market, premium, mass market, everywhere.
Pretty much. They've embedded themselves across the board.
Okay, so the scale is huge, the locations are strategic, but you said earlier the foundation for all this is really their technology, their innovation. What are they actually doing differently with the batteries themselves?
It comes down to just relentless R&D spending.
Yeah.
They poured, what was it, $2.59 billion into R&D in 2024 alone.
Wow.
And they hold something like 43,000 patents globally. They're actively trying to make current tech obsolete. And they're pushing hard on, I'd say, 3 main fronts.
Okay, let's break those down. First one, sodium ion. Marketed as Nextra, sounds like chemistry class using salt.
Huh, it kind of is, yeah. And that's the genius of it.
Yeah.
Sodium is everywhere, it's cheap, it completely bypasses the supply chain headaches and the price swings you get with lithium.
Okay, but does it work? Can you actually power a car with it effectively?
Well, that's the breakthrough. CATL has the world's first mass-produced sodium-ion battery that's genuinely viable for mainstream EVs. It's not just a lab curiosity anymore.
And the performance, what kind of range are we talking?
They're getting an energy density of 175 kilograms. In practical terms, that translates to a range of around 500 kilometers, or about 300 miles.
That's perfectly decent for a lot of uses.
Absolutely. It makes it a real, lower-cost, resource-friendly option, especially for, say, affordable city cars or smaller vehicles.
Yeah.
Big market potential there.
Okay, pillar 2. This tackles maybe the biggest hurdle for people thinking about EVs: charging speed, range anxiety.
Exactly. Their second-gen Shaanxi super fast charging battery. This one really changes the game for long trips or just convenience.
How fast is super fast?
It lets a car get an 80% charge in just 10 minutes.
10 minutes, seriously. That's faster than filling up with petrol sometimes.
Right, when charging gets that quick, it just dissolves a huge chunk of the resistance people have towards EVs.
Okay, that's impressive. And the third breakthrough: lithium metal batteries. The LMB sounds futuristic.
This really is a leap. When we talk battery performance, the key metric is energy density, how much power you pack into a certain weight, measured in watt-hours per kilogram, VHG. Good batteries today might be around 250, maybe 300 kiloamperes. CATL, by really nailing the electrolyte chemistry, has pushed past 500 kiloamperes with these LMBs.
500. So what does that mean for me, the driver? Double the density.
It basically means you could potentially double the car's range without making the battery any bigger or heavier. Or keep the same range but make the battery much lighter, improving efficiency. Plus, they're saying it doubles the battery's lifespan, too.
That is a major step change.
It's these kinds of advances that keep them ahead.
But hang on, if they have this incredible 500-weight helium metal tech, why are they spending billions with Stellantis on an LFP plant? LFP, isn't that usually seen as, well, less energy dense, kind of the budget option? Seems contradictory.
It seems like it, but that apparent contradiction is actually core to their whole strategy. It's what they call their dual chemistry approach.
Okay, explain.
They use the high-performance NMC nickel-manganese-cobalt chemistry for cars that need maximum density and power. Think about those Porsches and Audis we mentioned. Top-end stuff.
Got it.
But they also champion LFP lithium iron phosphate.
And the advantage of LFP is?
Several things. LFP batteries don't use cobalt or nickel, making them significantly cheaper. They're also inherently safer, much less prone to overheating.
Ah, okay. Cost and safety.
Exactly. So while LFP might be a bit less energy dense, it's perfect for more affordable cars. The B and C segment vehicles, your everyday hatchbacks and crossovers. The kind Europe needs millions of to hit mass EV adoption.
So the Stellantis JV using LFP is specifically targeting those high-volume, affordable models.
Precisely. CATL isn't betting on just one horse. They tailor the chemistry. Need hot performance, NMC. You need affordable mass market, LFP. They become the go-to supplier, whatever your need or price point. A one-stop shop.
And you can see the strategy paying off in their financials. While some battery makers struggle, CATL reported, 15% net profit growth in 2024?
Yeah, hitting $7.01 billion in net profit. Pretty staggering.
How does that stack up against, say, established players like Panasonic?
Well, it's interesting. Panasonic, obviously a huge name, but their stock is trading at a pretty low price-to-earnings ratio, like 9.81.
Which suggests?
It suggests investors aren't seeing massive growth ahead, maybe viewing them as a bit undervalued or slower moving compared to CATL's aggressive expansion.
Right, and then there's a European side. Companies like Northvolt.
That's kind of the cautionary tale, isn't it? Northvolt had huge ambitions, lots of backing, aiming to be Europe's champion. But our sources mentioned they reportedly filed for bankruptcy in 2025.
Really? Why?
Seems they just couldn't hit their production targets, couldn't scale up efficiently. It really highlights how difficult it is to match CATL's combination of scale, speed, and manufacturing prowess.
Okay, but expanding so aggressively into the West, especially Europe, must carry huge political risks, right? The U.S. has labeled CATL a Chinese military company. Congress is trying to cut off funding from U.S. banks. How do they protect that $11 billion investment in Europe from those kinds of headwinds?
That's where localization becomes absolutely critical. It's their geopolitical insurance policy, basically.
How so?
Because those huge factories are in Germany, in Hungary, soon in Spain. The batteries rolling off those lines are classed as European-made products.
Ah, so they avoid U.S. tariffs targeted at Chinese goods.
Exactly. And just as importantly, it aligns perfectly with EU rules that increasingly favor or even mandate local production for things like EV batteries to meet Europe's own green transition goals. They fit right in.
So they're operating under a kind of industrial camouflage. Chinese company, but European product.
That's a good way to put it. It's strategically clever.
Mm.
And in the U.S. market itself, where building plants is much harder politically for them right now,
Yeah.
they pivot, they use licensing deals, they license their tech to Ford, Tesla, GM, so they still get their technology into U.S. cars, make money from the IP, but without the political hassle of building factories there themselves.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And one last point, they seem to be aligning with Europe's longer-term green goals, too.
Yes, absolutely. They're not just shipping batteries and walking away. They're actively rolling out battery swapping stations and investing in battery recycling technology in Europe.
Creating a closed loop.
That's the aim, a closed-loop system for materials. And that plays perfectly into the requirements of the big European battery regulation, which is all about sustainability, recycling, second life use. It positions them not just as the biggest supplier, but potentially the most compliant and future-proof one, too. #tag outro.
You know, listening to all this, it's really clear CATL isn't just selling a part. They're fundamentally building critical energy infrastructure inside Europe.
They really are. And that leads us to the big, slightly uncomfortable question we want to leave you with today.
Okay.
Given this massive 11 billion investment, the constant stream of tech breakthroughs, sodium ion, the superfast charging, the 500 Weiss Kyosha batteries, and the fact they already have nearly 40% of the market, does Europe actually need CATL to succeed in its own energy transition? I mean, to hit that ambitious target of 500 gigawatt of battery capacity by 2030, is reliance on this non-European giant simply unavoidable, regardless of the geopolitical anxieties?
That tension, needing the technology and scale versus the discomfort of where it comes from, that's definitely something to chew on. It really captures why this is such a fascinating story.
It does.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the battery giant that's quietly, or maybe not so quietly, reshaping global power dynamics.
We hope this brought some clarity and you enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to keep up with these kinds of in-depth insights and make sure you don't miss our next exploration, please do follow our channel. Thanks so much for listening today.
We look forward to having you with us for the next deep dive.